Aces Let's Do It podcast. This is week 7, and I am joined by my cousin, Nick. Nick, please introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Nick, as he just mentioned. I am a 16-year-old high school junior and play baseball, and I run cross country, and I'm a huge sports fanatic, so I'm excited to be here.
Yep, he's excited, and we got some big news going on later, but we're going to start this off by talking about the NBA. Sadly, there's no NHL big news this week, so talk will be about that. Will be limited. Talk about the World Series and the impending 2021 MLB free agency, some NCAA news, and then we'll finish this thing off with the NFL Week 8 schedule. So let's get right into it. Stephen Silas was hired to be the next head coach of the Houston Rockets. He was an assistant coach, bounced from team to team, spent a little time as a scout for the Charlotte Hornets, and now he's got himself a head coaching job, his first, and he's got a pretty talented core between Russell Westbrook and James Harden. Nick, what are your thoughts on the hire of Stephen Silas?
Personally, I like the hire. I think that he has potential to be a decent head coach. I don't think he has the potential to be as good as Mike D'Antoni was. Mike D'Antoni, in my opinion, is one of the greatest offensive minds in the history of basketball. So I don't understand why they let him go in the first place. However, Silas had helped, and he helped coach during the playoff run for the Hornets in the mid-2000s. And I think that he has potential to be a good head coach, but I don't believe he will be as good as D'Antoni ever was.
Yeah, and we really don't know. This is his first head coaching job, but he's had some success being an assistant coach, and he's got some talented players. They still have, like I said earlier, James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Those two guys right there definitely ranked top 15, if not top 10 in the league. So for his first job, I say he started off pretty well in terms of getting good players. There's some other teams such as the Doc Rivers. He's got a lot of guys to work with, but he's an experienced head coach. Stephen Silas isn't an experienced head coach, but yeah, he's got these players. So hopefully he can build himself a pedigree with some good players, and I hope the best for him and the Rockets. All right, that was really the only big NBA news for the week. We're just going to move on to Game 6, the final game of the 2020 World Series, and what a season it has been. Going through the 60-game season, and then a little different type of playoffs, but ultimately the LA Dodgers have beaten the Tampa Bay Rays 4-2, and Corey Seager has become the World Series MVP. In your mind, Nick, who do you think should have won the MVP?
I liked the Corey Seager pick. However, if it was up to me and me only, I would have picked Mookie Betts because he's been nothing but clutch all the way through the playoffs. Corey Seager hit 400. He's been very, very good for them as of the last couple months month in the playoffs. However, I would have picked Mookie Betts just because of that clutch home run, that insurance run that he added in the 8th inning of that game, and that's about it. I think Mookie Betts probably deserved it just a little bit more, in my opinion.
Yeah, if the Rays had won this, we'd definitely be saying that Randy Arozarena definitely deserves it. But in my opinion, I think Turner may have deserved it a little bit more. His home runs came up. Yeah, Mookie Betts had a couple of clutch hits, but I think that Turner's home runs in particular were more impactful in the situations that he had. He was connecting with the ball all World Series long. He had some big home runs early. I think I particularly remember one, and I think Game 3, I think it was a 3-run blast to start off the game, and that really set the tone after the Tampa Bay Rays had won Game 2. I'm totally fine with the Corey Seager. He's a great player. He's got many years to come. Hopefully he can win himself a couple more MVP trophies. And speaking in Turner, it's very, very disappointing to find out that he did test positive for COVID-19 and was celebrating with the team afterwards, which I don't know, man. I thought it puts a sour end to what I would say a very successful 2020 season in terms of COVID. We had the incidents between the St. Louis Cardinals and the Miami Marlins, them having to be out of commission for a couple of weeks and them having to call up many players. But outside of those two teams, it was pretty good But, this does put a sour taste in my mouth right at the end of a very successful World Series.
And I do have to say, what a absolute amazing comeback story for Corey Seager, who, he's had all those injuries. He was one of the best players in baseball one of the best shortstops in baseball for a few years there. And then he had Tommy John surgery, and he had all that recovery time. And people seem to forget that he was really good at one point. And then this year, he came back and he was, again, one of the best shortstops in baseball. And he had an amazing postseason, hitting 400. He looked really good.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, he came up in 2015. It was in MVP rumors. So Corey Seager definitely had a big spark to the beginning of his career. And I remember playing, or when the Cubs played him and the Dodgers in 2016. He was especially a force. Luckily, my Cubs and your Cubs were able to get past him and the Dodgers. But Corey Seager's been a great player. And like you said, great to see him come back from all those injuries. Now, moving on to free agency, because this is a pretty big year, there's some pretty big names out there. One of them that headlines it for me is Yachty. Now, obviously, he's not the biggest player in terms of production, but he's a big name, and he's been with that Cardinal organization for a long time, and his contract is up. I'm very skeptical. I think he might leave. I think we're going to get a very similar Brady situation, right? No one really thought that Brady would leave, and here he is playing for Tampa Bay.
Would you, if you were the Cardinals, would you re-sign him?
I mean, I would. They what's his name? Kinsler, their backup. He's still a young player, and having Yachty in the clubhouse definitely does something for your team. Having that veteran presence, you can say, is one of the reasons why David Ross was brought in 2015. He's not the best player, but he had a great locker room presence, and I think that's what Yachty brings. He's been there for a long time, and definitely someone a young catcher should be able to look up to.
Absolutely. There's nobody better who can represent what a baseball player or even a catcher should be better than Yachty Molina, in my opinion. In my opinion, as a Cubs fan, I believe that he is a top 5 catcher of all time. He's getting old now, however, he's still an above-average catcher to have as his catcher. Is one of the best defensive catchers of all time. Still a great defensive catcher, even at 38 years of age. Still had a 1.7 WAR in 2020. I don't see any reason to let him walk, and I still believe he's a above-average catcher.
I don't either. And looking at this 2021 free agency list, who to you is probably the top name? All of these big guys that are have expiring contracts.
I would say the biggest name is probably DJ LeMahieu. There's not many. Second base is a position of need for a lot of teams. And LeMahieu, while he's still a great player, but he is kind of old-fashioned the way he hits for contact. Doesn't hit a lot of home runs, but he's still on base constantly, always hits for a high average. It's rare if he doesn't get on base twice in a game. He had a 7.8 WAR in 2020. He's an MVP candidate. I believe I could see him getting quite a bit of money.
Yeah, and another guy who's going to get a lot of money is Marcell Ozuna. He tore the cover off the baseball this season and in the playoffs. He's bounced around from Miami to St. Louis and now Atlanta. I think they signed him to a 1-year contract worth somewhere in the realm of, I think, like $12 million or $13 million. I don't particularly remember, but, he posted 2.3 WAR, had a batting average almost 340, drove in 56 runs. This guy was an absolute savage this year, hit 18 home runs. This guy is going to get, I would expect, maybe a 7-year contract for some team who's looking for an outfielder, especially a corner outfield, or maybe even a DH, because we all know that he has made his blunders in left field.
This whole Marcell Ozuna situation, in my opinion, reminds me eerily of the Josh Donaldson situation that happened last year. Josh Donaldson, he had kind of fallen off the radar just a tad. Came back 2019, he had an MVP candidate season with the Braves. Then he went and got that big contract in Minnesota. So the Braves seem to be very good at getting 1 year. They're giving people 1-year contracts and getting the best out of them. So
yeah, in my mind, Atlanta has always been able to just get the best out of everybody, right? They hire these, or not hire, but they just get these. I thought that was what was going to happen with Cole Hamels. He had a great run with the Cubs and the Phillies and the Rangers, and Atlanta's always been known for having a good pitching staff, and I thought he was going to go there and have the year that he did, or that he did with the Cubs. However, he got injured, but Marcell Ozuna had that year, and I think he's definitely going to get a lot of money. And who do you, in all these free agents here, who do you think is going to be an under the radar signing who might be, like a Jeremy Jeffress? Jeffress was a under the radar signing by all means of imagination, and he comes out and was in line for reliever of the year. So who do you think is a very under the radar player in this class?
An interesting one is Brock Holt, in my opinion. He had a decent season this year. He's only 33 years old. It's still somewhat young. He can still get a lot of production out of a 33-year-old. I wouldn't expect him to get a long-term deal, maybe 2 or 3 years. However, I think that he still has a lot left in the tank.
Yeah, going back to his time in Boston, he was a solid utility player. Can literally play every single position except pitch and catch. He played all over the field in Boston. And when he signed with the Brewers, me being a Cub fan, I was a little worried because I thought this guy was going to come in, be a solid bench bat, and even provide some stability at second base with Mike Moustakas leaving.
I can absolutely agree with that. His name is somewhat – it can be a little scary. However, I believe that he has what it takes to be very good.
Yeah, and to me, I think the under-the-radar guy is Ken Giles. I mean, he only pitched in 4 games this year, unfortunately due to injury. But this guy has been a workhorse. Career ERA of 2.74. Now, I know that's not the thing you want to look at, but he has an ERA plus of 148. I mean, this guy delivers. He's been a great closer, and he's only 30. I mean, it seems like he's been in the league a lot longer than that, but he's only 30 years old, and I'm sure there's a team out there looking for bullpen help, the Cubs, who could use a right-hander who throws gas and knows where it's going. So to me, Ken Giles is the guy they got to watch out for. I think he's going to be a type of guy who's going to have a very similar year to Jeremy Jeffress.
Now let me ask you this: how many years and what contract would you give if you were a team looking for a left fielder? How would you structure a deal for Michael Brantley?
That's tough. I mean, he's 34 years old. But everywhere he's gone, he's hit. The only problem with him is that he gets injured. He's had, somewhat of a healthy stint with the not the Indians, but the Astros. But when he was with the Indians, he got injured quite a lot. So I would give him a 3-year contract, but I would have a mutual option in year 2 and then a club option in year 3 because at 34 years old, he could still be very productive. But when you get in those dog days, August and September, you wonder if the legs are going to be there. So I would be very careful. I would pay him most of his money up front, maybe like a 3-year, $28 million, but pay 20 of that in the first 2 years.
I mean, yeah, I can see that. Michael Brantley, in my opinion, has consistently been one of the most underrated players in baseball since he's been in the league. Every year he's been completely healthy. He's been one of the best players in baseball. There's no other way. He's been a top 25, top 30 player in baseball. Even this year, as a 34-year-old, when he was healthy, he was still hitting the ball just as good as anybody in the league. And he really helped the Astros with getting to the LCS and winning games.
Yeah, he's been a great player. Also, going back to under the radar guys, Jock Peterson. He provided a lot of stability to that Dodgers lineup this year. Came off the bench a few times, provided big hits. So if he doesn't stay with LA, I can definitely see a team, maybe not the Marlins, but one of those smaller market teams who can give him a deal in which is both beneficial to Jock and the club. So I think Jock Peterson is definitely another one that you have to take a look at.
Another interesting potential free agent, and nobody knows what he's going to do yet. I believe that he hasn't said what he's going to do yet. Is Nicholas Castellanos, because he has a player option. And what would you do if you were him?
I was very skeptical of the Rays going into the playoffs when you rely so heavily on the long ball.
The Reds.
Yeah, the Reds. When you get to the playoffs, you got to be able to scratch one or two playing small ball. You can't always rely on the long ball. So I definitely think that has to factor in his decision whether or not he wants to stay again. But Cincinnati has a great core of guys. I really like David Bell. I think he's a good manager. And what was really their downfall this year was not being able to score outside the home run. And Nick can definitely do that. He can hit home runs, but he also can hit doubles and get on base at somewhat of a decent clip. So I think he's going to stay. I don't know, man. It does bring up, an interesting, because if he comes out, he's definitely, to me, number 2 in terms of outfield behind Marcell Ozuna.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Another interesting name that I've looked at is Mike Minor. Very good. He's been a very good left-handed pitcher for a long time. I don't see any. I don't know what I would do if I was him. He's a free agent. I don't know if I was a team, if I would give him a long-term deal at 33 years old. However, I would look to him and see if he could get maybe a 1-year deal. He was very important to Texas in last year, not this year, because this year they were one of the worst teams in baseball. Last year as a Rangers, they were almost a playoff team, and he was very important in that. He had a 3.5 ERA, went out there, he ate 200 innings up. One of the best. I see no reason why he shouldn't get another contract. I don't know that I would try to. If I was him, I think I would try to go to a winning team if they were willing to have me just to be like a back end type of guy. However, it'll be interesting to see if he wants to try to win a ring or if he just wants to get as much money as he can.
Yeah, I mean, he's bounced around for a while. I think he flirted with a no-hitter in Oakland, so there's still some left there. The fastball is still definitely there. Changeup, I know, is a big part of his repertoire, so that's definitely still there. If I'm Mike Minor, I am definitely contacting my buddy Jeff Mathis, because, as you and I know, we watched what's that video? Foolish Baseball did a video on him, and Jeff Mathis is definitely good for baseball, and he definitely helped Mike Minor resurrect his career. So I definitely think that does have to factor in where he's going to go. Mike Minor can definitely thank Jeff Mathis a lot for his career.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're gonna go ahead and move on here. We're gonna talk about some NCAA college football, and the big story coming out of the NCAA is that unfortunately Wisconsin has to cancel their game against the Nebraska Cornhuskers due to a small COVID outbreak in the Wisconsin camp. The game will not be rescheduled, unfortunately. I think they're not rescheduling it mainly because they're starting to get into the middle of the college football season, and they really don't have time to reschedule games, so they're probably just going to have to move on. And I have to applaud the Wisconsin athletic department for doing something like this, getting on top of this outbreak early so no other cases happen. So the number 9 team in the country will unfortunately not be playing this week. However, number 1 Clemson plays Boston College, and I think this is going to be an underrated game. Clemson came out, I think they scored, 50 in the first half last week or a week and a half ago or something, but they just came out and was scoring willingly. I don't think that's going to happen. Boston College is 4-2 for a reason. They got a decent defense. The over-under for the game is 61, and the line is Clemson, a 31-point favorite, which I definitely don't think is going to happen. I think this is going to be a closer game than people think. However, I do think that Travis Etienne is going to have a big game. I think the Boston College secondary is definitely going to hold down Trevor Lawrence, even though it doesn't seem like anybody's been able to hold down Trevor Lawrence all season long. And
definitely be hard to hold down Trevor Lawrence. He's been quite good.
Yeah, since he came in as a freshman. I mean, I remember walking into a Wendy's when he was at Clemson for the spring game before he was even enrolled in college, and I saw this kid with long hair, and I was like, man, who's this guy making throws all over the place? Little did I know would he be the future number 1 overall draft choice. But he's very good, but I definitely think people are sleeping on Boston College, and I definitely would not. Moving on to the number 5 team in the country, Georgia plays the University of Kentucky. On the contrary to the Boston College Clemson game, I think Georgia is going to run all over Kentucky. Kentucky's not really good. They don't have a very good run defense. And Georgia just has all of these, highly touted recruits. And I think it's just going to be a star power in this game. However, they do have a decent running attack, does Kentucky. Chris Rodriguez, he's got over 300 yards and four touchdowns this season, so he's their lead back, and he's looked pretty explosive in his little time. But definitely, I think Georgia's going to be the winner in this one. Stenson Bennett is a very good quarterback, and he's looking at a NFL future. Nick, what do you think about number 7 Cincinnati going against Memphis? Cincinnati, one of these group of 5 teams that's ranked very highly. Do you think they can have a UCF type run the next couple of seasons?
I mean, that could be potentially possible. I mean, I don't know that much about college football. However, it is interesting to see Cincinnati, as they weren't really looked at or considered to be big, but they've come out, they beat some good teams this year, so could be I believe that they are going to beat Memphis. However, it could go, it could go either way. It really could. I don't know.
Yeah, it's, Cincinnati's one of those teams that have surprised a lot of people who aren't used to seeing, group of 5 teams in the top 25. The Kelsey brothers went to Cincinnati. They had a 3rd-round tight end last year, Josiah DeGuara, go to the Packers. This is a team that churns out NFL talent, and people don't know about it. It's quite awfully a shame, because this team has actually been pretty good for the last couple of years, and I'm very glad to see that they're actually starting to get the recognition that they deserve. And I'm sure you are too. I'm definitely going to take Cincinnati in this game. Memphis, they have that kind of gimmicky offense where they just throw the ball all over the field. Clark for their tailback, he's pretty good, but their plan of attack is to go through the air. But I'm going to take Cincinnati. They're just a better football team. Moving on, one of the biggest games of the week, Michigan State. Every year when the Big Ten rolls around, this is definitely a game that you have to circle on your schedule. Regardless of what the money line is, regardless of the over-under, you know that this is going to be a good game. Year in and year out, these teams just duke it out regardless of how, what the standings are. Michigan State could be 0-9 and Michigan be 9-0, but when you watch this game, it's definitely going to be a slugfest. Mel Tucker is his first year as head coach, and he lost his first game, but he's got a pretty tough task going up against number 13 Michigan. What are your thoughts on John Harbaugh's squad this season, Nick?
I believe that Michigan looks very good. I think they're better than their number 13 ranking, and I do think that they are going to beat Michigan State. However, I don't think it's going to be the line is Michigan by 24.5, which I just don't see happening. I think it's a one-score game, but I do believe that Michigan will come out on top and move to 2-0.
Now, this is a few weeks away, but, it's Big Ten. It's Michigan. We got to talk about it, Nick. Who are you taking, Michigan, Ohio State?
I got to take Ohio State, you can't bet. It's really hard to bet against Ohio State all the time, because Ohio State is Ohio State, and I know that it's a big rivalry, and that Michigan and Ohio State have had some real toxicity in the past. However, I just don't see Ohio State losing, because it's hard to bet against Justin Fields and Ohio State. Yeah,
for the last, I don't even know how many years. I have nothing against Ohio State, but I'm always wanting to see Michigan win. I don't know, when J.T. Barrett ran the ball on that 4th and 1, to me, I don't think he got it, and I thought Michigan had won the game for the first time during the John Harbaugh era. And lo and behold, he got it, and Michigan then gave up a rushing touchdown to J.K. Dobson. Not Dobson, J.K. Dobbs.
Dobbins.
Yeah, Dobbins, sorry. I don't know, man. I always want to root for Michigan, but somehow, some way, they always find a way to lose those games. But that's a few weeks ahead. So when we get to that game, we'll definitely talk about it. Next up, Jarrett Doege brings his team to Kansas State. The West Virginia quarterback who's transferred from Bowling Green. They go up against a 4-1 Kansas State team who quietly is starting to make some noise over there in the Big 12. And, they never have the best recruits. I said this a couple weeks ago. But somehow, some way, they always find guys who play tough. And they just churn out NFL talent left and right. Take a look at Tyler Lockett. He had a huge game. Was it last week? Yeah, I think he had like 50 fantasy points or something. So
He was 48. He actually cost me a loss.
I know. Luckily I didn't play him in fantasy, but he's definitely a beast, and that's what Kansas State does. They get these guys who are like 2-star recruits, bring them in, develop them, and then they go to the NFL and they have some success. Look at Jordy Nelson, 3rd-round pick of the Packers, one of the greatest wide receivers that ever suit up for the green and gold.
Absolutely.
And with that being said, all the success that Kansas State has had, they are the underdog in this game by 3.5 points. Jarrett Doege is a very good quarterback. I've seen him make some NFL throws this season, but I just think they're not going to get it done. They have all these yards on offense, all these touchdowns, does West Virginia, but somehow, some way, they always find to lose games right at the end, and Kansas State is on a roll. 4-0 in the Big 12, and I don't see them stopping at all. I'm not saying they're going to be a top 10 team in the country, but they're definitely going to be a top 15 team. This team has a lot of talent, and NFL scouts are taking a look at them, and they're definitely going to be seeing a W this Saturday in West Virginia.
I would agree.
Next up, number 20, undefeated Coastal Carolina plays Georgia State. Not too much to talk about here. Georgia State isn't all that good. Coastal Carolina is. Not a lot of people are talking about it because, again, it's one of these group of 5 teams. But watch out for Coastal Carolina. I don't think they're going to play in a New Year's Six Bowl. But they might end the year with only 2 losses. Coastal Carolina is a very good team. They're favorited by 2 points. I definitely don't see this. The over-under is 60. I think Coastal Carolina is going to be a win at least by 20. Grayson McCall is a good quarterback. He's got 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns. Dude's a beast. Next up, my guy, Brock Purdy. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that I'm a Brock Purdy supporter. Also a big Tanner Morgan supporter. But right now, it's all about Brock Purdy. I think he had a pretty good game against Oklahoma State last week. He made some throws in some key situations that he needed to. Now he needs to clean up the interceptions. I think he had 1 or 2 last week, but he's very capable of cleaning those up, and he brings his team into a very bad Kansas team. Kansas is 0-5. Nick, what are your thoughts on the 28.5-point favorite Iowa State Cyclones?
I don't see any way Iowa State can lose this game. I mean, Kansas is terrible, as you just said. Really, I mean, this was basketball. Maybe it would be a little different, but Iowa State, I see no way they lose this game. They look really good. As you said, Brock Purdy looks really good. I see no way Iowa State loses this game.
Yeah, I don't either. Listen, I'm a big Les Miles fan. Think he's a good coach, but it's not going to happen this year, and it probably won't happen next year. He's on the hot seat after this year if they don't win, if they don't at least win a couple of games. If Kansas doesn't win a single game this year, the conversation for the removal of Les Miles is definitely going to be there. And it's not all of his fault. He inherited a team that wasn't very talented, and I think his name's Puka Williams. He's a very talented gadget player, but that's really about it. They don't really have any other NFL talent on that squad, so hopefully Les Miles and the Kansas City Jayhawks can turn it around. But I'm with you, Nick. There's no way Iowa State's losing this game. They're favored by almost 30 points. That might be putting it lightly. Next up, one of the most historic teams in NCAA history, Notre Dame visits Georgia Tech. Jeff Sims is a freshman quarterback. He looks really good. They played Clemson not too long ago, I think, and looked a lot better than people thought he would. This guy's a freshman, can do it all. He can run, he can throw, and I think he's making a case for freshman of the year. On the other side, Kyron Williams for Notre Dame. He's an underrated back. Notre Dame's playing in the ACC this year, so they're no longer independent for the 2020 season. So they'll be playing these somewhat good defenses. And Georgia Tech definitely has a young, but I think they're a very talented defense. So I think if Notre Dame's going to win this game convincingly, like they're supposed to, Kyron Williams is going to have himself a big day.
I would absolutely agree. My opinion is that I believe Notre Dame has as good a chance as any to win the Natty this year. I really don't see. I like Notre Dame. I think that they're a very good football team, and I don't see, as you said, I don't see any way to lose this game. They're favored by 20 points. They look really good. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and you know who else looks really good? Number 17, Indiana. They came out of the gates firing against Penn State last week. I said on this show that Penn State was going to win this game convincingly, and I was wrong. Indiana came out, looked good. Michael Pinks Jr. looked particularly good. He was 19 of 36 for 130 yards and threw a touchdown and ran a 2-point conversion that was very impressive. I think he was like 3 yards away from the goal line and lunged and made it to beat Penn State in overtime, which was very impressive to see.
Did he make it?
I think he made it. I'll give it to him. I'm one of those guys where if a guy tries all his best and it's close, give it to him, even if it's against my own team. I always like seeing guys who give full help the credit they deserve. And, man, you talk about putting it all on the line, that's what he did. They're going up against Rutgers this year, who has struggled since coming to the Big Ten. I know they've produced some NFL talent the last few years, but not a whole lot. And I was totally wrong in Indiana. If they continue on this trajectory, they're going to be a good football team for a couple of years now. They could have a Minnesota Golden Gophers type resurgence. Before PJ Fleck got there, Minnesota was they were okay at best. And now with PJ Fleck there, they're competing with some of the Big Ten's finest week in and week out. And if Indiana can continue to do that, they're definitely going to build their reputation as one of the better teams in the Big Ten.
I also like Indiana because their quarterback's left-handed. That's something for me.
Yeah, left-handed bias there. He's going to be playing on Sundays sooner rather than later.
Absolutely.
He's definitely got the frame and the build to be an NFL quarterback. And to me, I don't see any way Indiana wins or loses this game. They're riding off the coattails of a big win over Penn State, and I definitely think they can go into New Jersey and take one from Rutgers.
Absolutely.
Moving on to the next game, Texas and Sam Ehlinger go to Stillwater, Oklahoma to play number 6 Oklahoma State and Chuba Hubbard. This game, to me, might be game of the week. The over-under is at 85.5 points. I think there's... Yeah, 50, or sorry, did I say 85.5?
You did.
Well, you know what? I would not be surprised. These are a couple of high-scoring offenses. Sam Ehlinger can put up some points. He's got 1,500 passing yards and 17 touchdowns this year. I think they scored 60 on Texas Tech, so we know they have it in them. So if there's 85 points scored between these two teams, I would not be surprised. But I was wrong. The over-under is 58. I'm definitely taking the over in this game. I think this is going to be a high-scoring, down-to-the-wire game. Chuba Hubbard, I think, is going to have like 200 yards and a pair of touchdowns. And Tylan Wallace, he's going to have a big game as well. I'm going to go with the upset here. I like Sam Ehlinger. I've liked him for the last couple of years. I think he's an underrated quarterback. He makes some questionable decisions with the ball. He throws a little too many interceptions for my liking. But I think he's a good quarterback. He's definitely one of the best Texas has had. You could argue since Vince Young. And I think he's going to lead his team to victory in this game and upset number 6 Oklahoma State. I mean, they had a scare against my boy Brock Purdy and Iowa State last week. I think Sam Ehlinger is going to get it done this week.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you. I actually think I got it by more than you. I think I got Texas by at least a touchdown here. I like Sam Ehlinger. Sam Ehlinger is an absolute stud. He throws a lot of touchdowns. He's going to run up the score. He's going to play really well. You know that week in and week out. So, yeah, I like Texas here.
Yeah, I've always liked. I wouldn't say Texas is back, not yet, but hook 'em horns. I'm rooting for the Texas Longhorns this week. Next game, number 25, Boise State goes to Air Force. Little side tidbit here. I actually know a couple of people that go to the United States Air Force Academy. One is Jared Van Vliet. He's a wrestler there. He won state at 32 weight class. He's a good guy, and my friend Grant Pierce also enlisted in the Air Force. So I know who they'll be rooting for this week, but I'm going to be on the contrary. I'm going to be rooting for Boise State this week and Hank Beckmeyer. I really like what I saw from him. He was 20 of 28, 268 yards and 3 touchdowns. He definitely can sling it, and I think he's going to be an underrated quarterback. A lot of people don't know about him, but they should start seeing that this guy can ball. They're favored by 14 points. I think that's enough. I like that a lot. The over/under is set at 49. I like that those odds there for Boise State to come out of Colorado with a W.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I like Boise State. I like that. I don't know. I think the 25 ranking might be just a tad low for them. I think they probably should be a little lower than 20, but also higher than 25. Yeah. But yeah, I like Boise State here.
Yeah, the fact them for their first game last week, didn't help them, unfortunately. But I definitely agree with you. I definitely think they should be ranked higher than 25. A team who should not be ranked higher than what they are is Alabama. I truly believe that Clemson is the number 1 team in the country. But don't get me wrong, Alabama is number 2, even without Jalen Waddle for the rest of the year. What happened to Jalen Waddle is devastating. He got rolled up on first play of the game and then blows his ankle out, out for the rest of the season. But guess what? Alabama knows how to churn out wide receivers left and right. I don't think they're going to miss him, as explosive as he is.
Yeah, I mean, I would absolutely agree with you. I don't see any way. Going back to what we said, I don't see any way Alabama loses this game. Mississippi State is not a good team. They're definitely not Alabama. Let's just put it that way.
No, they're not.
Nick Saban is still greatest college coach of all time.
Ooh, that one hurts, man. I like my boy Joey Paterno over in Penn State, but listen, that argument, it's got a really good argument.
I don't know. Yeah, I just don't see Alabama. They're favored by 31 points. I like Alabama here.
Yeah, I do too.
I think they could potentially beat the over/under just by themselves.
You know what? The over/under set at 63.5, and I think you're right. I really like Mac Jones. He came in garbage time a little bit last year, and then had to fill in full time when Tua got hurt. And I liked what I saw from him. The Auburn game was what really impressed me. Yeah, he threw a couple of interceptions, but he made some big time throws down the sideline that I think impressed me and NFL scouts. I think he's going to maybe not be a day 1 draft pick, and maybe not even a day 2, but I definitely think he can go in the 4th or 5th round. Mac Jones is definitely an NFL caliber quarterback. I mean, he was a 4-star coming out of high school, so he's got some talent.
Absolutely, I agree.
And Alabama has talent up and down the board. I remember when Najee Harris came out. He was the number 1 recruit in the nation, I think in 2015. He's an absolute dog. He may be the number 1 running back taken in this year's draft, and rightfully so. He's an absolute beast. And we talked about Ohio State earlier. They're number 3 in the country going up against Penn State. Now, just like the Michigan State game, this is always a game that I like watching because these guys go at it head-to-head, and this is always a good game. We know what Justin Fields is. He's a great quarterback. He'll probably be number 2 or number 3 quarterback in this year's draft. Garrett Wilson is a beast. And his defense, man, Ohio State, if Alabama is known for wide receivers, Ohio State's known for building a defense in front. I think they're definitely going to win this game. I don't think it's going to be as a blowout as some think. I think this is going to be a close game, maybe a 6-point contest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that the 12-point line that Ohio State is favored by is fair. I think that Penn State is not as bad as people think they are. I do believe they have a chance to win games. I don't like they were ranked. I believe it was number 9 coming into the season. But they lost to Indiana last week, so they dropped down. I think Penn State has a chance here. I don't think that they're going to win, but I do think that they're going to put up a good fight.
Yeah, I mean, if Indiana continues to win, that's going to be a very good loss for them. If they can put it all together, and let's say they win this game, get ranked back in the top 10, and Indiana keeps winning, Penn State might be in good shape. Maybe it was just a fluke game. We don't know. I do agree with you though that Penn State is a lot better than 18. But after you lose to an unranked team, some droppage is expected. But I do expect Ohio State to win this game. But I think it's going to be a good game.
Absolutely.
What isn't going to be a good game is Texas A&M and Arkansas. Arkansas has struggled in the SEC for a few years now. And Texas A&M is on the rise. You hate to even think that maybe when Alabama loses its reign, but Texas A&M could step in. But I'm convinced at this point for the rest of my life, Alabama is going to be top 5. They're just so good, and as long as Nick Saban's there, they're definitely going to be in the top 10. But I'm taking Kellen Mond and his squad. There's just no contest here. The over-under is set at 54.5 points, and just like Alabama, they might make that on their own. I'm just not a big fan of Arkansas football the last couple of years.
I definitely agree with you 100%. Don't have much else to say. You hit it right on the head.
Moving on, number 10, Florida invites Missouri into Gainesville. I'm not going to talk too much about this. Kyle Trask, Heisman candidate, he's probably going to throw the ball all over the field this week against Missouri. Missouri's not very good. They haven't been since entering the SEC. They're just like Arizona, or not Arizona, Arkansas. This is going to be a blowout. If you're a Florida fan, I'd be very excited for this game because your team can run the score up a little bit, but not so much on Missouri's side. And then one of the surprise teams of the year, SMU. They're 5-1. Shane Buechele he's got almost 2,000 passing yards. He's got 13 touchdowns. He's a beast, and I think they're gonna go, or they're not gonna go to, but I think they're gonna beat up on Navy. Navy runs this gimmicky triple option offense that they've ran for a long time, and in high school I'm very familiar with this. I was part of this system in high school, so it's very predictable. You know what's going to happen. Navy is not the powerhouse when Roger Staubach was there, so teams have definitely caught on how to beat this option attack, and I think SMU is going to be one of those teams this week.
Yeah, it's interesting to see SMU on the way back up after everything that's happened with them in the past and how it stripped them from everything, and how they didn't really have a chance to compete because of how they got caught. It was a really interesting 30 yards for 30 on that. I'm not going to get too much into it, but it's interesting to see how they're finally building their way back up after all that. And I agree that SMU is definitely the favorite in this game.
Yeah, and speaking of bringing themselves back up to relevance, North Carolina, they did have an upset loss a couple weeks ago, but Mac Brown has definitely got them going in the right direction. Sam Howell's a good quarterback, one of the top freshmen last year. And this is a very good North Carolina team. Don't get it wrong. Yeah, they had a slip-up against, I think, Louisville. But this is a good football team, and they're going up against a struggling Virginia team. Virginia hasn't been very good, at all, the last couple of years. And there's no question here. I think North Carolina is going to go in. They're going to lay the 7.5 that they're supposed to win by. I would say maybe 10, maybe 12. But the line there at 7. Point favorite for North Carolina, I think, is very respectable. But I do believe that North Carolina is going to go into Virginia and take this one.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%.
Next up, Lincoln Riley and his Oklahoma squad goes to Texas Tech. Another one that I'm not going to talk too much on. Texas Tech, not very good. Oklahoma, yeah, you can say they're not all that good, but guess what? Lincoln Riley is a upcoming coaching star. I mean, he's one of the. If you say that Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney are 1-2, you can say that Lincoln Riley is 3 in terms of best coaches in the NCAA. Spencer Rattler is a beast. He'll probably win Freshman of the Year. And this Oklahoma team, I think, is going to score up probably about 50 points on Texas Tech. We all know that the Big 12 isn't big on defense, so I definitely think this is going to be a high-scoring game. The over-under set at 69 points. I wouldn't be surprised if 80 is met in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I don't know how much else to say. No, I'm not the biggest college football fan, so I don't. This is getting into unmarked territory for me.
Just a couple more things here. The last game, BYU is number 11th. They're 6-0. Zach Wilson is looking like a tank. I really like his game a lot. I liked him as a freshman. And BYU is almost a 30-point favorite in this game. So I'm just going to let that speak for itself. We all know that BYU is a good team, and we all know that Zach Wilson is going to throw the ball and run the ball very effectively against this Western Kentucky front that hasn't shown that it can put up some points. So no surprise here. And then also the Friday, October 30th game between Florida International and number 19 ranked Marshall has been postponed. Hasn't been canceled. It's just been postponed. So they will play that game at a later date. But as of right now, they are not playing this week. So that concludes our college football talk. And now we're going to get into the NFL. And before we start with the games of this week, let's go over the trades that have been going on. And we'll start this off with one of the first one that started. Kalime Correa was traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars on October 14th for a 6th-round pick. He was very unhappy in Tennessee, and so the Titans decided to ship out a cancer and ship him off to Jacksonville. Then the next deal was Steve McClendon, a captain for the New York Jets. He was traded to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in exchange for a 6th-round draft pick. You know, McClendon, he's a run stuffer. He's a good player. And with Vita Vea going down due to a broken ankle, I think Steve McClendon's going to step in and do an okay job because
yeah, absolutely. It's hard to fill the hole with Vita Vea left, but I feel like he can do a decent job of trying to help him.
Yeah.
He's not going to be as good as Vita Vea is, but
no, he'll just be a stopgap. I always like these big defensive linemen coming out of college, and a lot of people were just saying that he's a Danny Shelton, but when I watched him at Washington, he got after the quarterback, and I was like, this guy is not Danny Shelton. He can definitely get after it. And then one of the surprising trades, to me at least, Yannick Ngakoue was traded to the Baltimore Ravens after the Minnesota Vikings had traded for him, I think, week 3 of the NFL season, which was very surprising to me. The Vikings, I think, got a 3rd-round pick back for him, and he hadn't done great things, but I was very surprised by this deal.
Yeah, with the Vikings, what they're at this point trying to do is they realize they're not going to make the playoffs this year. I think they're trying to lose as many games as possible. I think they're going to try to get a high draft pick and draft a Trevor Lawrence or a Justin Fields or somebody like that.
Do you think Kirk Cousins is on his way out?
I do. I don't believe that Kirk Cousins is the future at quarterback for Minnesota. I could be completely wrong. However, I just don't see him being there for much longer.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised about it, but I think you're definitely right. I think they are definitely trying to get a quarterback in this upcoming draft. And as of recording this, it is October 28th, so there's only a couple of deals so far. Everson Griffin was traded to the Detroit Lions from the Dallas Cowboys, and in exchange, the Dallas Cowboys received a 6th-round pick. Man, it's not very good in Dallas right now. Losing both quarterbacks, your backup and your starter, is devastating to a team. And I totally agree with Mike McCarthy said, being an offensive lineman myself, not seeing the offensive lineman of the Cowboys not go after John Bostic and the Washington football team front was very disappointing because the safety of the quarterback is the number one job of an offensive lineman, and when you fail, you feel pretty bad. And I was not happy with the Cowboys offensive line after not at least retaliating, and I'm not saying throwing punches, but I'm just saying getting in the faces of the Washington football team after the quarterback went down.
I absolutely agree 100%. The Cowboys, I don't want to say that, I'm trying to stay remotely unbiased as possible, but the Cowboys, they just look lost. Like, they don't look like at 2-5 now, I believe that's right, 2-5. They just don't look like, some of them, they don't look like they want to be there. They just don't. They're just like, whatever. I mean, we're not playing great. We're not winning games, so I don't even, like, a lot of them don't even look like they're trying anymore.
Yeah, that's what I get from Zeke. I said on the show that you don't know what Zeke Elliott you're going to get. You're either going to get the guy that's a top 3 running back in this league, or you're going to get the guy who doesn't look like he's trying. And, it's demoralizing losing Dak Prescott, the heart and soul of that team, and then losing Andy Dalton. But guess what? You're getting paid millions of dollars to do a job, and you have to do it. It's plain as simple as that. If you don't want to be there, don't be there. You shouldn't have gotten into this business in the first place.
It seems more like they don't, or it seems more likely that you're going to get the Zeke that is going to fumble and not going to try as hard as he can and not going to be the player we all know he can be. And it's very disappointing to see that because Zeke is I want to say a top 5 player in the league when he's absolutely at his best, trying his hardest. It looks like he wants to be there. Yeah. So it's painful and devastating to see this Zeke that's just fumbling the ball constantly and not even doesn't look good.
And then piggybacking onto somebody who wasn't very happy, Carlos Dunlap wasn't very happy in Cincinnati, so they traded him to the Seattle Seahawks for offensive lineman B.J. Finney and a 7th-round pick. I like this move a lot. I think both teams are going to succeed from it. The Bengals being in the AFC and the Seahawks being in the NFC, they're not going to play each other too much. And I think B.J. Finney is going to help with that interior of the offensive line that has been absolutely horrendous this year. I said on the show that, Joe Burrow is a top 15 quarterback, and the only way he's going to do that is if this offensive line continues to block. And they haven't done a very good job. Nick, I'm sure you saw this hit, the one he took against Philadelphia. He got rocked. It
did not look good. I'm surprised he got back up after that.
I know, you got to give him props for that, but man, Zach Taylor, he's got to be shaking in his boots right now that his franchise quarterback is getting thrown around like a rag doll every week.
Absolutely. So, it's hard to look at that as a, decently, I don't want to say big because I don't watch a ton of college football, but as an LSU guy, it's hard to see him go to Cincinnati and just get destroyed week in and week out as somebody who got to watch him and root for him and just experience his greatness firsthand last year.
Yeah, he's great. He's a great quarterback, and I think he's going to be very good. But, like I said, greatness is you're only as good as your offensive line. And right now, the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line is not very good, and that's why they're 1-5-1. All right, that concludes the trades. We can discuss a couple of trade rumors. Nick being a Bear fan and I'm being a Packer fan, we looked up some of them, and I saw one about my Packers maybe going after J.J. Watt, and I was very happy for that. Many of you know that J.J. Watt is a native of the great state of Wisconsin, and he also went to the University of Wisconsin, so this marriage seems like a great fit. And for the Bears, there was a rumor that Alex Mack, the terrific center for the Atlanta Falcons, might be going to Chicago. Nick, what are your thoughts on potentially gaining a very good offensive lineman?
That would be gaining an Alex Mack. There's nothing bad that can come from that, right? So, being a big Bear fan and watching the struggle at quarterback and the struggle because they can't get the run game going at all whatsoever, and I just don't like to see it. I don't like seeing that. I don't like seeing David Montgomery get mauled because David Montgomery has the potential to be one of the best running backs in the league, in my opinion. Same with Tree Cohen, but Tree Cohen now we lost him due to a torn ACL. It's really too bad. But gaining an Alex Mack, there's nothing bad that can come from that. He's one of the best offensive linemen in the league, and all he would do is help our team.
Yeah, and even at age 34, he's very productive at what he does, and he's very good. And you kick Cody Whitehair to guard, and you insert him at center, and now you look at the interior of the offensive line is one of the best. You have Whitehair, Daniels, and Mack at the interior. Now it's not the best, but it's definitely not the worst. And when I look at David Montgomery, I see a clone of Matt Forte. It's just, it's the play calling, in my opinion, that is taking this team down. I mean they're 5-2 for a reason, but there have been some questionable calls. We'll get into it later when we discuss the Bear game.
And another big thing with Alex Mack is he's tough as nails. I don't know if you remember a few years back in the Super Bowl, he played through a leg fracture that would have, if it was a normal season, he would have been out for 4 or 5 months, but he played through it because he wanted to play in the Super Bowl, and he was so tough as nails and did a great job protecting Matt Ryan against that Patriots front that was so good in 2017. It was good to see. It was nice to see.
Yeah, you're totally right. All right, now moving on to the upcoming weeks. We're already 56 minutes into this, so let's try and get through this a little bit faster. Thursday night game, the 1-6 Falcons go to the 3-4 Panthers. In my opinion, I think the Falcons might get this done. Raheem Morris, I like a lot. He's a guy who the Falcons are looking hard at to maybe replace Dan Quinn long term. I mean, we all know that he's the interim head coach, but I'm talking about for seasons to come. And, Teddy Bridgewater's had his ups and downs this season. I think the Falcons are going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I can absolutely agree with you. I don't believe that. I think I like the Falcons in this one, though. I've liked the Falcons in a lot of the games they played this season. I really can't believe that they're 1-6. It's hard to see that because, they're such a good first half team. They jump out to leads and then they just blow them. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like that they've had the best competition. Yeah, they played the Packers, but they also played the Cowboys and let them come back. And I don't know, it's not very. The situation in Atlanta is not very good, but I do think they can get out of here with a W.
Absolutely.
Right. Going on to the Sunday afternoon games. Afternoon being noon. The 6-0 Steelers go to the 5-1 Baltimore Ravens, and I'm taking Ben Roethlisberger in this game. Not because he's on my fantasy league, but I've really liked what I've seen from Ben Roethlisberger this year, and the Steelers have, if not the best, defense in the league.
I don't think so. I think I'm rolling with Lamar Jackson here. I think that I can see I like the. I can't speak. I like the Ravens' offense against the way the Steelers run their defense. I think I'm going to pick the Ravens here.
Yeah,
I like the running quarterback against the Steelers' offense.
Yeah, it's he's definitely an enigma. We haven't seen somebody like this since Mike Vick. I mean, we've had the RG3s and the Cam Newtons of the world, but I think Lamar definitely runs the ball more effectively than both of those guys. And I do think that the Steelers are gonna shut him down in terms of running the football this week, but they got to watch after his arm, and he's got a very underrated arm, I think.
Absolutely.
Next game, the 5-2 Rams are meeting Tua in his first career start in Miami. Nick, what are your thoughts on the Dolphins making the switch from Ryan Fitzpatrick to Tua Tagovailoa?
I mean, I would have done the same thing. There's a little bit of lefty bias there, but I also like that I would have made the switch. I would have started Tua in week 1 if it was up to me because I just like the way he works with the Dolphins offense. I also think that I think I'm going to go with the Rams in this game. If you would have asked me last week before I watched them blow out my Bears, I would have picked the Dolphins for sure, but I think I'm going to go with the Rams this week because I just like the Rams better. I think that they're a good football team. That's all I can really say.
I agree with you on the Rams winning this game. However, I disagree with you with Tua playing, and especially Tua playing week 1. I have seen countless quarterbacks get thrown in way too early, and that kind of blows their confidence. Jacksonville Jaguars used to have a quarterback by the name of Blaine Gabbert, an 11th overall draft choice from Missouri. They threw him in too early, and he's been a bust. Now he's a backup to Tom. No, he's not. Where is he? Jimmy Garoppolo. You're right. So, and then Blake Bortles, I think, was thrown into early. You can even say that Mitch Trubisky was thrown into early. Now Tua, I wasn't his biggest fan in college. I thought that when the games mattered, outside of the one touchdown pass he threw against Georgia, he wasn't his normal self. Now, I mean, when you're playing against the best competition in the world, you would expect that. But I don't know. There's just something about Tua that I wasn't a big fan of. And obviously, the injury concerns are definitely something that I was worried about. And I've said on the show countless times that I thought that if the Dolphins were in position to not make the playoffs, that's when he should make the switch. But they're 3-3 and second in the division. I mean, they are not out of it yet. Credit to Brian Flores of taking a struggling team and making them competent. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick had some wonderful games. You know, he had some big games where you can think, wow, this guy's a NFL quarterback. But, you know, I still don't understand the decision. I get that you want to play the young guy, but when you're in a position to make the playoffs, I think you should start whoever you think is the best quarterback on the roster. Now, I'm not Brian Flores. Maybe he thinks Tua is. I don't know. Moving on, we're just going to skip Kansas City and the Jets game because we know what's going to happen. Adam Gase should be relieved of his duties effective immediately following this game because the Chiefs will probably score like 50 points and the Jets will probably score like -6. Somehow, some way, they'll find a way to score negative points, even though it's never been done in a game. They'll find a way because they're that bad. Anyways, moving on. The Vikings and the Packers meet this week in Lambeau. The Minnesota Vikings are 1-5. We discussed how maybe there are thoughts of trying to tank for Trevor. I don't think they're going to get there. And my Packers have bounced back last week. Nick, I know you're a Bears fan, but what are your thoughts on the Packers' chances of winning the North this season?
I like the Packers in the North. I've always liked the Packers in the North. I like the Bears. I really do. I think they have the potential to be a playoff team. However, I don't think they're going to win the division. I've said since they finished 5-1, as long as the Bears can go 500 for the rest of the way, they should be able to go 10-6 and make the playoffs. However, I think the Packers are better than a 10-6 team. If you ask me, I believe the Packers are the best team in the NFL. I like the Packers. I think that they're a very good team, as much as it pains me to say it. And Aaron Rodgers is mad because they drafted Jordan Love, right? And I don't know. I think the Packers are a very good team.
And, you know, I'm trying to be unbiased as possible, but when I watch this team on offense, yeah, we don't have a true number 2 wide receiver, but, you know, there's good offensive line play. Devontae Adams is a beast. We got a young, stable running backs. And the defense has shown some improvements from last year. Yeah, the pass rush isn't there, but Jair Alexander is probably number 2 in terms of PFF cornerback ratings this year. He's been absolutely lights out. I think the Packers are going to win this game, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's just going to be a normal game, you know, like a 24 to like 13, you know, maybe a 30 to 20 game. I really don't expect this to be a blowout. The Vikings still have a very talented defense, and Dalvin Cook's a beast. I don't know if he's playing in this game. I know there were some question marks whether or not he was going to play, but somehow, some way, that guy always rips my Packers for like 700 yards each season. So I never count the Vikings out. I've seen them tie. I've seen the Vikings come back and win. So whenever the Vikings are on the schedule, I always shaking my boots. And Nick, your mother is a Viking fan, and so she knows that the Vikings do very well when they play the Packers. So hopefully that doesn't happen this week.
Absolutely.
Moving on, another team in the North plays this week. The Lions go up against the 4-2 Colts, and now with the acquisition of Everson Griffin, this pass rush becomes, I wouldn't say even better than it already was. It's because it's not a good one, but you know, inserting Everson Griffin, who has definitely had a very good career, injecting him into a young defense with some young defensive linemen such as the Arquara brothers, is going to do a lot of good for a guy in Matt Patricia, who is on the hot seat, and I think the Lions can get out of this week with a win.
Yeah, I agree absolutely. You asked me the Lions. They took this. They traded for. Shoot, I can't remember the guy's name right now. The Lions traded for. Who did the Giants trade for?
Everson Griffin?
Everson Griffin, right. That's my bad. And I believe they took it. They traded for him, and they made this average defense that it was before. They made it an above-average defense by doing that. I believe because Everson Griffin was a Pro Bowl pass rusher last year. I see no reason how that could make them worse.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you make a trade, you hope that it helps your team in the best way possible, and I definitely think Everson Griffin is one of those guys. We discussed about this with baseball, but I think he has kind of he might have a Josh Donaldson type of effect. He wasn't very good where he was, and then moves and gets a change of scenery, and then all of a sudden he's the one of the best players in the league. So I would not be surprised if Everson Griffin turns it around this week.
I agree with that absolutely.
Next game, the 3-3 Raiders. Sorry, the Raiders going up against the 5-2 Browns, who to me have been one of the more impressive teams of the year. A lot of people were skeptical whether or not Kevin Stefanski was going to be very good at his job. Turns out he is. And the Browns are rocking and rolling. And I said on the show they're going to compete for the number one seed in the North. However, with the Steelers being 5-0, or 6-0 rather, and the Baltimore Ravens only have one loss on their record, it's going to be very tough for the Browns to get into the postseason this year, I believe.
Yeah, into the postseason or to win the North?
Both. I think they have the firepower to win the North, but that's going to be tough. And
I don't believe they're going to win North. However, I do believe they are going to end up in the playoffs somehow. It'll be interesting to see, considering I saw them go 0-16 just a few years ago. It's interesting to see how they have become a better team and how they've grown with the. I was very skeptical of Baker Mayfield coming out of Oklahoma. However, he's proved me wrong. He's proven me wrong in every sense of the word, and he's been a very, at least above average NFL quarterback. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, and we're talking about all this pedigree of the Browns. However, I'm going to take John Gruden in this game. The marriage between him and Derek Carr is definitely one that is very good. They have definitely improved upon some of the mishaps they had last season. But this year, the Raiders are rocking and rolling, and they just need to figure some things out on defense. And this could be the other wild card team. If the Browns are going to be the wild card team, the number one team, the Raiders are going to be number two. And I'm taking the Raiders. I just like their offense against this Browns defense.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with what you're saying. I think that I would probably pick the Browns. However, I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I do think it's going to be a close game. However, I think I'm going to take the Browns in this one.
Next up, Titans and Bengals. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Titans are going to win this game. I'm not very confident that the Bengals defense is going to be able to stop Derrick Henry and or Ryan Tannehill. However, I think that the Bengals are going to put up some points. Joe Burrow is going to have himself a game. And I don't know if they're going to play B.J. Finney right away because he doesn't know the system. But if he does play, this offensive line gets an instant upgrade. So he might be upright the whole game. But again, I'm taking the Titans in this ball game.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. I don't see any way that the Titans lose this game. I like the Titans. I think they're a very good team, and I don't like the Bengals against the Titans because I just don't see any way the Bengals can handle the pass rush the Titans have.
I don't either. Moving on, we have an AFC North or AFC East rather matchup between the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills. Nick, what are your thoughts on this game?
I think the Patriots are going to take this one. This is my upset pick for the week. I like Bill Belichick against Buffalo. Bill Belichick, he doesn't really lose to Buffalo. He'll find a way to come out and win this game. I can't really explain why I feel this way. I know it's weird, but I think that I like New England in this one against Buffalo, even though it's in Buffalo.
I'm going to go with Bills Mafia in this game. I'm going with the MVP of the league, Josh Allen, and I'm going with one of the better defenses in the league. I just think the Bills are going to be too much for the Cam Newton-led New England Patriots. I expect the Bills to put up about 30 points on this Patriots defense.
And that could happen. I could be completely wrong. However, I don't know. I have a feeling about the Patriots this week.
Well, let's see if Cam can bounce back from 3 interceptions. That's pretty tough.
Yeah.
We have another showdown in the AFC. It's the Chargers against the Broncos interdivision game here. Justin Herbert against Drew Locke. I've really been impressed with Justin Herbert, and I've said a few times on this show that he has proved a lot of people wrong.
He's absolutely proved me wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't have much faith in him at all going into this season. I thought Tyrod was going to end up being the starter and that Justin Herbert wouldn't be around for at least this season, maybe even longer than that. However, I've been completely wrong on that. Justin Herbert has definitely been the best quarterback. He's far and away the offensive rookie of the year to this point in the season, and I really like how he's come out and played as well as he has.
Yeah, he and I think Patrick Mahomes are the only 2 quarterbacks that throw for at least 250 yards in their first 4 starts. That's a great way to start off your career, especially when you're right next to a guy who has already won himself an MVP, won himself a Super Bowl. So Justin Herbert is definitely on the fast track to stardom. But don't forget about the Broncos. I know they've got a lot of injuries, and I know Drew Lock hasn't been as good as he was last season, but I really like Drew Lock. I think he's going to steal this game from the Chargers late. And I think the Chargers are going to have a lead going into the 4th, but I think the Broncos are going to storm back and win this game probably by a late field goal.
I could see that, absolutely. I mean, the Broncos were my sleeper pick to make the playoffs at the beginning of the year. I'm sure a lot of people thought that too. I know I wasn't the only one, even out of the people I talk to on a regular basis, to think that. So it's interesting to me that they fall into 2-4, but I think they could bounce back and still potentially make the playoffs at 10-6 or 11-5.
No doubt about it. I mean, I don't think they're going to win their division with Kansas City being as powerful as they are, but they're definitely in that mix of the Browns and the Raiders in terms of wild card teams.
Absolutely.
Next up is Fox's game of the week, I think. It's a 49ers Seattle Seahawks matchup. Now, when you started the season, you circled this game because you thought it was going to be a very good game. And with the way the 49ers have played the last couple of weeks, I'm not so sure. Losing Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas are 2 big key players on your defense, and especially after trading Eric Armstead, or DeForest Buckner, rather. So it's almost like this defense is depleted, and Jimmy G has not been his normal self. So I'm definitely taking Seattle Seahawks, and I think new acquisition Carlos Dunlap might have himself a game of his career.
Yeah, I like Seattle in this one. I think Seattle's going to blow them out, if I'm being completely honest. Seattle, I know I said that I like Green Bay as the best team in the NFC. However, I don't. Seattle's not far behind. Russell Wilson is my MVP of the league so far this year. And I like Russell Wilson. I like the Seahawks. That's all there is to say about that.
All right, next game. Your Bears are playing the New Orleans Saints, and New Orleans is coming into Chicago. And I hope this is a typical Chicago game. I hope it snows. For those of you who don't live in Illinois, it snowed a couple of times already this October. It snowed on Monday, and I think again yesterday it snowed, at least where I'm at. So I'm hoping this game just has snow coming down, and Drew Brees is. Listen, I love Drew Brees, but Drew Brees I don't think ever played in a snow game, so I want to see how he reacts to a snow game. And he's missing his number 1 target, Michael Thomas. So hopefully the Bears have a better shot of winning this week than they did against the Rams.
See, I like the Bears this week. There may be a little bit of bias there. I like the Bears in cold weather. If I look at the forecast really quick, it is supposed to be very cold, and I do believe it's supposed to snow. On Sunday it's supposed to be 39 and windy in Chicago. So I like the Bears in cold weather.
Typical Chicago October day, if you ask me.
Absolutely.
Below 40 and windy. That's Chicago for you.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go the opposite, though. I think if it doesn't snow, I think Drew Brees is going to come out and they're going to win.
I don't think so. I think I like the Bears in this one just because I like them in cold. And, the Saints are used to they play 8 games a year in a controlled environment, and the other 8 games are, in the South.
Yeah. They play 4 games. They play 4 of their games outside in the South, so they're not used to these conditions. However, you do have to remember that Nick Foles has thrown 6 interceptions in the 4 games he's played in, and I've not been impressed with the Nick Foles' play over the last couple of weeks. I've also not been impressed by the play calling. If you didn't get a chance to watch the Bear game last week, right at the end of the half, Matt Nagy had a chance to call a timeout to force the Rams to punt, and they would have had, I think, like 20 seconds to go down the field and score, and he just let them run the clock out. To me, that was a missed opportunity to go down and score some points.
I agree, absolutely. In my opinion, I will be severely disappointed if this isn't Matt Nagy's last year in Chicago.
Yeah, and Nick and I have had our own private conversations about this, but I think definitely pace is gone, and if the Bears do make the playoffs, how can you fire a coach after they make it to the playoffs? Unless if a Bill Belichick is available, I don't think you try and make that move. But if the Bears miss out on the playoffs, I think Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are both getting their pink slips.
I agree, absolutely.
Moving on to the Sunday night game, 2-5 Dallas goes to 2-4-1 Philadelphia, and this game, believe it or not, is going to be for the division right now, and that's really tough to see that 2 teams that only have 2 wins in Week 8 are playing for the division.
Yeah, it's actually quite crazy. This is a division. I think a team, the winner of this division is going to be at 6-10. I know that's crazy, and I don't think that's ever been done before. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the winner of this division is going to be at 6-10. That's crazy, and that should never happen. But
yeah, I said that on this show. I think I predicted the Eagles to win the division at 6. At the time, it was 6-10 or 6-10. Now it'll be probably 6-9-1.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like we said, there's turmoil in Dallas. I just feel I don't know how I can say that the Dallas Cowboys are going to go into Philadelphia and win this game. I just have too much confidence in Carson Wentz. He turned it around. I really like the way he's been playing the last couple of weeks. And Travis Fulgham is budding into a star, a guy who's bounced around a few times, and now he's found a steady home in Philadelphia. And I think he's going to have a big game against this very bad Dallas Cowboys defense.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I don't think I can, as much as I like Ben DiNucci, I just don't think I can pick Ben DiNucci against. It comes down to the quarterback play. I can't pick Ben DiNucci against the guy who was going to win an MVP before he unfortunately tore his ACL and Nick Foles had to come in and win. But I like Carson Wentz here over Ben DiNucci. So
yeah, you're totally right. And I'm gonna let you take the head on this one, the Monday night game. What are your thoughts on Tom Brady going into New York?
Well, I like the Bucs here. I really do. I think that the Bucs are one of the best teams in the NFL. I don't think they're a top 3 team. I think they're probably in the top 5 or the top 7. However, this has really done for me this year has proved to me that my theory that Belichick is great because of Brady has proved great to me, in my opinion. Tampa Bay, you look at Tampa Bay and you look at New England, and that's all you got to say. And I like Tampa Bay, even though they got to go to New York. New York's going to move to 1-7. And the fact that New York could still win this division is crazy.
I know. It's so, oh man, you hate this. It's disappointing, really. There's 6 wins between the 4 teams.
Absolutely.
It's horrible.
The team I want to win that division, though, is Washington. I would love to see Washington win the.
Yeah, I would too, but I don't know, man. The quarterback is a question mark, and like you said, it comes down to quarterback play. And Dwayne Haskins was benched, and Kyle Allen is. I think he's a spot starter at best, but I totally agree with you. I think Tampa Bay is going to go into New York this week, and I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think, but I think this very talented Buccaneers defense is going to have their way with Daniel Jones and the struggling New York Giants offense. Well, that's been a very long discussion between me and my cousin Nick. Nick, thank you for coming on, and
I appreciate you having me. This was fun.
Yeah, well, I'll have to have you on soon. But thank you, everyone, for joining in. This has been week 7 of the AC Let's Do It podcast, once again, with your host, Dominic Archer, and a special guest, Nick Rich. Thank you all for watching, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and follow the Instagram page at Aces Let's Do It for more great content.